What is up? It is your boy Scuba Steve.
And I'm the Sodaholic.
Oh. And I am your boy La Chancla.
And welcome to another podcast with you boys. Or guys. Or ladies. Or, I don't know. I don't know how you guys are doing.
Bro, I like how you guys could just like move your mic closer and just talk into it like that. I can't do that.
Well, I just move into my mic.
Well, I mean,
I just get closer, yeah. Cause then, yeah, I feel like my mic is at a good spot. I don't want to move it.
If I move my mic, well, my mic is at my headset, so I mean, if I moved it, it'd just be like make a lot of ruffling noise.
Just staple it to the wall and then go in closer.
ASMR.
Alright, anyways, Scuba Steve has a podcast topic for today.
That was me moving my mic. Let me do it again. Ready? You're probably wondering, well, what the hell are you moving it to? What was all that noise? Again, I'm moving my mic, and my mic is surrounded by wood. I wasn't moving my mic. I was moving my plastic garbage that I have on my desk. I had a chocolate muffin the other day. I love chocolate. Leave a comment down below. Do you like chocolate muffins? All right, thank you guys for listening. And tune in next week where we talk about love.
Goodbye.
Right?
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Psych. No, today. Okay, so I'm reading up on a couple books about technology. Right. Well, not for funsies. It's for a class that I'm taking, and so.
Yeah, who reads for funsies? Am I right? Ha ha.
Yeah, right. Ha ha ha. But we've been discussing a lot about robots and or technology, and robots, and how modern advance of technology has kind of like been affecting us in so many different ways. Like they're like we become more efficient, but we also become more convenient also at the same time, right? I mean, you don't have to like talk someone in person face to face anymore, right? You could just go through text or through DMs or like Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
You don't have to meet in person to play Monopoly. You can do that online, right?
I think Monopoly in person is so much more better, though, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but it's just like with modern technology, it's become more convenient for us to do other things, right? And it's more efficient, right? And things become more accessible, right? Like music, pictures, knowledge, video, like a whole bunch of things. There's so much progress and so much that we've been getting out of this thing, the computers and phones that we have, right?
Right.
It's amazing how much progress we're making, right? But then there's also drawbacks, right? I mean, because we're texting with our phones from a distance, there's a lack of conversation, right? And there's a lack of like wanting. Well, they give different examples where like there's people, you can have kids in a room and they're all on their phones, right? Even though they're present, they're not really present with each other. They're present with themselves, right? Because they're on with their phones. And then there's also, all right, I lost my train of thought, right? And then it's just technology has helped us in so many ways, but it's also kind of like led us to like kind of isolating ourselves, I guess, in a way.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just like, what are your thoughts on that, right? I mean, just with technology that's advancing so much, do you think that there's a sort of attachment that we have with our, we'll start little by little. I mean, this is such a broad topic, but we'll start with like, there's an attachment with our phones, right? There's a sort of attachment. Like for me, at least, I have my phone next, like in the morning and before I sleep, I have it next to my bed, right? And then I wake up and then I'm on my phone. Then I spend like the next 3 hours on my phone where I should be like, either praying or like, doing homework or something like more productive, right?
Right.
And just like scrolling through Facebook or like looking through YouTubes, right? It's talking really fast. My apologies. But after reading a whole bunch of articles and through my class and doing a whole bunch of discussions and doing like a kind of like a reflection, I realized that I've become like addicted to my phone in a sense, even when I'm like I use my phone as like something to fill up a space or fill up time where like I could be do something else, right? Like it's kind of mindless when I'm just like opening up Snapchat, looking through it, closing it, and then opening up Snapchat again, hoping to see something new, even though I haven't seen something new in like 0.2 seconds when I closed it, right? So I feel like technology, in many ways, it could help us, but I feel like we've succumbed into being attached to the phones, and we're losing sight of being attached to each other, I guess, right? I don't know. I mean, is that such a bad thing? I guess that's my question.
I mean, depends. I see your point to where, like, it is kind of like putting yourself in your own bubble and making you feel more dependent on your phone. But at the same time, like, as long as you learn to use it in a way where it's not disruptive to your own life, your own behavior, I don't see what's wrong with it. Because the way I use my phone, I like to use my phone to like stay in touch with people that, or keep up with people that I've met throughout my life and that I don't really get to talk to on a day-to-day basis. Just like to check in and be like, yo, what's up, how's it going, what you been up to in life, and
Right.
That's usually what I use my phone for. And then, like you said, I do have my phone next to my bed all the time. And I don't really view it as disruptive, but however, I do watch videos when I wake up when I could be doing work or something. But a lot of the videos that I like to watch are kind of informative anyways. So
Right.
you still learn stuff, just not the stuff that you get from like school,
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, as long as you learn to use your phone in a way that is not disruptive to your own life, I don't see it as a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't really see it as a bad thing either. Because I mean, okay, there is a difference between being addicted and just using your phone. I know people who refuses to be separated from their phones. Like even when they're with friends. Now that is a problem. That's a pet peeve of mine, is when like you're hanging out with friends and then there's that one guy who just refuses to not be on his phone. But for the most part, I don't see anything wrong with being connected with other people. I don't see a problem with carrying a conversation through text or stuff like that. And even if you're just watching entertainment, I mean, sure, it's not as praised as doing some real work, but at the same time, I mean, there's a reason why entertainment is so big. It's because it distracts you from the pressures of the world. If you're super stressed, if you have a lot on your plate, you go to music, you go to your favorite games or shows or movies. There's always things that you try to do to calm yourself down and, inspire you. That's what I like to use my phone for, is if I'm not talking to my friends, I'm online watching videos that inspire me, creatively, or just side projects teaching me stuff. And, for me, that's not a problem when it comes to, what's it called? The technology getting up there, because, there's so many benefits, and I feel like if someone gets too addicted, it means it's ruining their functionalities as a person. So as like Pablo was saying, as long as it's not affecting their real life and what's happening in real life, then it's not really a problem.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. Like, I think when we use technology, we should use it in moderation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's important is moderation, right? For like everything.
Right.
But the thing is, it's like when it comes to communication, right? It's good that we have ways to connect with each other in so many different ways, in so many different like. We can connect with people no matter where they at, right?
Right.
But there's a drawback to that, and is that there's no conversation. It's when it's like you have control of what you say and how you say it, and that really like throws me off is when you say it, right? There's no real time conversation unless you're on the phone. Right. I mean, when you're calling on the phone, there's real time conversation. But through text, there's a sense of control, meaning that I can text someone in the morning, right? Where like I'm feeling a way where I'm like sad, and so then I text somebody in the morning and I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this way, but they won't text me until like later in the day where I'm feeling better, right? Where I'm feeling like I don't feel that way no more, and so I don't need that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's important to like at least to recognize that like it's difficult to have conversation through text because it's not real time, and I think that's important to have a real time conversation because it's like you have those thoughts in the now.
Yeah.
Right. You feel some type of way and you kind of want to get your mind off of that. And yeah, so I guess in some of the books, or in one of the chapters, it was talking about, in the book that I'm reading, it's called Alone Together by Sherry Turkle. I think that's her name, right? Yeah, but it's a good book. It's really good. But in one of her chapters, it talked about how that through text, people, or at least teenagers, she studied teenagers, and they want things now, right? They want the conversation now. So if one friend doesn't text them back immediately, they move on to a different friend, right? And so it becomes like they want instant gratification, I guess. And it's like they want things now, and if they don't have it, they move on to the next, right? And so I feel like that's kind of what the drawback is with technology, or at least with the phones, in my opinion, right? I mean, it's harder to have conversation because then it's like you can have, well, the thing is like you can have control with the phone, but you can't have control in real life, right? And so there's a fear of saying things right or wrong when you're having a real-time conversation, and so people are more comfortable with text, right? A lot of people are more comfortable with texting than they are with calling someone, because you can say what you have more control of what you say and how you say it and when you say it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a drawback, because it's like, you're kind of afraid, I guess, of like having something that's intimate, like a conversation,
Yeah.
Because if you become comfortable with that sort of mentality through text, then I'm jumbling with my words. If you become comfortable with that mentality, become comfortable with that in real life, right? And I think that's problematic, where we don't want to have real life or real time conversations because it makes us feel uncomfortable, right? But I feel like we gain a sort of a bond, a relationship with someone in real life when we have that kind of conversation, right? That's a lot to take in. I for me, because it's like I said a lot, but I don't know. Like, it's good that we have this stuff to entertain us, right? I mean, like I do watch YouTube, and I, watch. Only time I would just watch something educating or entertaining, right? It's one or the other. Or I have my Xbox to play games and connect with my friends through like Halo or like Xbox Live and all that, right? But there's also drawbacks that people should recognize, and I feel like one of the drawbacks is connecting in connecting in real time, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's my view on things. I don't really have. I don't. I understand what you're saying, and to an extent, I agree. But for the most part, I don't think texting is too bad. Only because like there are times where you really can't talk. There's times where you can't like physically call someone or talk to someone. And text allows you to have another avenue of communicating how you're feeling to someone. And if someone doesn't reply to you, I mean, that's just unfortunate, but that's the same thing as missing a call. If you call someone and they don't answer, you're going to call someone else. So when it comes to texting, I feel like it's the same way. If you're not communicating with someone, or if you're communicating with someone who doesn't want to communicate back to you, you just feel more empty. But I think with people, when it comes to texting, like I don't see it as much as a problem. As long as you're not in the same room texting each other, then that's kind of like that's kind of like stop. But
I try not to use my phone when I'm like going out at restaurants. I'll have my phone out, but I put it face down and I put it like somewhere in the table. That way, at least I know where it is. But like I'm aware that I'm not supposed to be using my phone.
Yeah.
I think another thing to point out is that like is when you don't receive the text, you come to your own conclusions, right? Or
I have
meaning that like meaning that like when like you say something, you send a text and they don't reply for a certain period of time, you become to think like, oh, they don't like me, or they don't want to talk to me, right? Or they like it's become in a way so you become you have your own conclusions about how they feel, right? And you're clouded about like, well, maybe they're busy, maybe they're like doing homework or stuff like that, right? And so people tend to overthink in that situation, or at least I think I mean, I used to overthink too when it comes to like people don't text me for a long period of time, but I kind of like push myself, all right, take a step back and say like maybe they're just like doing homework or doing some like important right? And so I'll wait for that text. But I don't know, for me personally, I do like phone calls better than texting, and I do like face-to-face interactions because it at least like it's genuine in my opinion, because again, when you have a text, you're just reading words, right? There's not really that much emotion compared to like a phone call, right?
Yeah.
And so because you're just reading words, and so I guess my question for that is like, is ultimately, are you like, or at least I wonder, like ultimately when you're texting someone, are you texting like not the person but just the words, because it's like, yeah.
For me, a lot of my texting, I like to tell people that I can't say the words that I'm texting because I'm too shy to say the words that I want to say. So through text is my best way to say what I want to say. And
right,
usually for me, texting is more meaningful because I can say what I want to say, like how you said, and I don't see what's bad about texting what you want to say, because that's ultimately what you wanted to say in the first place, but you couldn't say it to begin with, But right. I can see that, like, obviously you do need to talk to the person and stuff like that, but like, if And another point I wanted to bring up was you said that that when you're texting, you're just I forget what the point was, but it was more like along the lines of when you're texting someone, you're texting because you wanted to get something off your chest or stuff like that. And usually in those situations, you're by yourself anyways, so you don't have anyone to talk to. So by having texting, you can connect yourself to someone. And I feel like that's better than just being left on your own to settle your own emotions, you know?
But my thing is, it's like you send a text, but you're feeling that way, and you won't get a message until later, like way later.
Then find a good friend that'll text you back, man.
But isn't that not the same case as if? Because you were saying how someone comes to their own conclusions if someone doesn't text them back. Isn't that the same thing as if you try to call someone and they don't answer?
Well, I mean,
because if at least when you text someone, they know what you're gonna say, and if depending on people, I hate it when people like call and don't leave voicemail messages. I hate those people.
Me too.
But I will say, like,
no, it's unknown. It's unknown numbers, not anybody. It's like unknown numbers.
No, I have people who I know for sure called me, and they won't tell me why they called me, but they keep calling me.
Right.
But for me, it's the same play field. I mean, like, if I miss a call, if I don't answer a text, it's for the same reason. I don't see, I don't answer calls and then not answer texts and a message, trying to send a message. It's just either I can answer or I can't.
Yeah, I think it's important to separate. Like, I understand where people are coming from when they start to overthink, because I do that a lot of the time when I'm in a bad mood. But it's really important to separate the idea of they're a bad friend to they just don't have the time right now to answer you. And like most of the time, your friend, if they are your friend, will answer you if they have the time.
Right.
It's really bad to think that, like, oh, I just don't matter to them right now. It's just better to think that, hey, maybe they're busy right now. Or maybe they're going through their own thing, and that's probably why they didn't answer me. So, the importance behind what you said about, like, how when people don't answer you, you start to think, like, oh man, I'm not worth it. It's just control the urge to feel bad because you're already in a bad mood. Control that urge, and you'll at least feel better about the fact that you still have friends, you know?
Right.
Another case I want to make for text, and this is only for extremes. This isn't like a normal person would handle, but it relates to what Pablo was saying about when he texts. Sometimes he says what he means when he texts someone. Sometimes people say words they don't mean, and sometimes it comes across wrong because they phrase it wrong. And when you're writing a text, you're able to form the right phrase in what you're trying to say, even if it's like a joke or like something you're actually trying to convey to someone. Sometimes words betray you, even if, as you're saying it. You can lose a train of thought. You can put the wrong emphasis on a sentence, and a lot of that can be that can happen in text, but it can also be structured so that it accurately says exactly what you want to say.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, though, do you think people will still end up reading it wrong, right? Because there's no.
I think
there's no.
As long as the person knows how you are as a person, they should read it the way that they know you to be. Like, for example, when I text, people. Wait, first of all, like people that say that there's no emotion in texting are just not putting emotion into their text. That's all I gotta say for that. Cause I'm really good at texting and showing my emotion through
Okay.
text.
All right.
and so like, and for how I put emotion into my text and how I want to show emotion in my text, I usually put it. Like, I usually explain how I'm feeling and how what the text. It's more like freak. It's like it's like you're going to your friend and you're like, "Hey man, I gotta talk to you about this," and that's like the tone that I read text in, you know, because like ultimately texts are supposed to be like a little bit more intimate because they're one-on-one. So that's the way I take it. Is more intimate, more like personal. Like, this is something I wanted to say just to you, and that's how you should read it, because ultimately it is just to you. Because so yeah.
I will say, because you said what if someone reads it wrong? Well, some people don't know how to handle stuff in real time. Some people don't know how to handle difficult conversations in real time. Some people just shut others out when they try to, like, say something to them. And if that happens, then your mind starts to make conclusions because it's in real time. Like, if someone's not, doesn't know how to handle a serious conversation, then there's a chance they might just shut them out or say the wrong thing versus a text. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's the thing though. It's like people are afraid to have real conversations.
But that's with them. Even if it wasn't through text, isn't it better to convey it in a sort of way than not conveying it at all?
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's important. I think it's important to to be able to hear the emotions and to be able to see the emotions. I mean, even through call. At least you can hear how they're feeling.
I mean,
you know.
I can't.
Cause like,
I mean,
through text, I feel like through text, I don't know. It's just like I get what you guys are saying. Like, it's understandable, right? I mean, these are the arguments that are made, through discussions and stuff. But it's like, I think it's important because when you have text, you're scared of that confrontation, right? You're scared of being of confronting those feelings in real time. And I get it that you can through text you can, like, be more careful and more articulate of how you say things, but I think it's important to confront those feelings with someone in real time.
Well, what if they don't
because then you understand that, right? I mean, what's important is to have that conversation, right, in real time. Because you understand how they feel, how they look, how they feel, body language, and all of that is really important. With text, I feel like you're hiding, right? I mean, you with text you can also shut someone out, right? It's the same thing. Like when someone sends you a text, you could just say "K," or you can respond with like some like minuscule, and then you don't even have to respond back to them, right? I mean,
but
it works both ways, but I feel like what's more beneficial is to have it in real time.
Right, but also what I want to say is most of these things that you're saying in real time, what if you're like don't feel it at the time that you're around the person, and like you get home and
then you wait, then you wait until you're both are ready to have it in real time.
But then you forget
right?
what you're feeling in that moment, where you could just like in the moment text the person. Or even better, like, what if you're in the moment, you're feeling whatever you're feeling with the person, but you're in a group setting and you don't want to say it to the rest of the group. You just want to say it to that one person. Like, you can't just say it to that one person because...
then you go into a private area and you talk it between yourselves. I mean, you don't have a conversation about, like, something,
But then you also get that sense of embarrassment because, like, oh, you have to pull this person aside because you have to only talk to one person, and then everybody else in that group is like, oh man, these people are like...
See, now you're just thinking about people judging about you.
Yeah, but that's real problems, actually.
I think
I just feel like when you're... I just feel like... No, I was just gonna say, I just feel like when you're texting through a phone, I think you're hiding away from like confrontation, and you're hiding away from like avoiding your like like something that's more beneficial to yourself and to the other party. Then I mean, you should if you can't do text, or if you can't do it in person, right? I feel like you should do it through call, right? Because it's real time and you can hear the emotions, and it's very important because with a text you can read things wrong, right? You can read some that would seem meaningful, but it could come off wrong because you read it wrong.
Well, that can come off in
at least
a conversation in real time as well. I mean, for me,
well, you can no. I feel like I'm sorry. No, you speak.
I think. Well, here's the thing. I can see both sides. I definitely, for sure, a real life conversation is more meaningful, but at the same time, some people, despite a call, text, they aren't equipped to talk about these things. Even if it's like in real life, they might just avoid you. Even if you try to pull them aside, they might avoid you. You might not even have the chance to say what you want to say because they won't give you the time of day. I know people who's never given me the time of day when I try to talk to them. So I sent them a text to let them know how I feel. And I don't think sending a text I don't view it as hiding if the person behind the phone is not willing to have that conversation. For me, everything is point to the person. If someone reads it wrong, then they're reading it out of context. If someone reads a conversation or like reads into words that are actually being said, then the problem is with them. Everyone could say weird things and analyze it differently. I could leave out important details when I actually mean something else when I'm speaking to you in person. And I think I don't think there's a downside to texting if I text someone saying, hey, meet me here, or let's have a real conversation, and they still avoid me, then that's on them. And if I text them my real thoughts and my real feelings, that's still on them because they weren't willing to gauge me on either spectrum, whether in person, whether on call, whether on text. And that's why I don't think texting is a form of hiding if you're willing to have the conversation in the first place.
Ultimately, I agree with... Soda! We're getting too deep into this conversation. Anyways, I agree with Soda because ultimately you're not really hiding. You're more of saying what you like. What he said, like, it's better to say what you want to say than not say it at all. And if you can't say it in person, then why not say it through text? Like, obviously it's not going to be as meaningful, but it's better than not saying it at all. And that's all pretty much we're saying, is that, like, as long as you're making the active effort to say what you want to say, it's better than not making that effort at all. And
I think
yeah.
This that leads to more. This leads to my next thought. Right, is that freak. Dang, I lost my train of thought because I was thinking as you were talking, and then I like shut you out because I was thinking, and then but
well, thank you for being honest.
So let's take a little break. Let's take a little break right now, and
shout outs to our sponsors.
Go to our sponsors. Let's go to our sponsors. No, here's we'll move to our sponsors. Our sponsors is Doritos Locos Tacos.
Doritos Locos Tacos.
Doritos Locos Tacos. You feeling hungry? Live Mas Doritos Locos Tacos.
I like how we're actually using sponsors and then none of our sponsoring us.
They're not gonna pay us.
I know. We're just shouting out
one of these days we're gonna get a real.
We are paying them.
We're gonna get a real sponsor one of these days, and no one's gonna
one
know
of these
that
days,
we're actually
bro.
sponsored.
Hopefully someone sponsors us, man. I will be shouting them out with no regrets, man.
No regrets. Nothing but pride for that. Anyways,
Scuba Steve, your topic.
No, what was that thing you said again?
Or arguments?
It was,
Wait, how far
No,
back did
not
you
your
keep
no
that?
no 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 Pablo no that last thing that was said.
You said you had a thought.
There was a point. No.
Oh, the last thing
before
I
I said
said.
anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
I said
it was
that
a
as
really
long
good-
as you say what you need to say, it's better than not saying it at all.
Right. No, there's a freak. I lost my. You said something. Do the whole thing.
I
again.
said, okay, synopsis of what I said. I said, if someone is not willing to engage the conversation in general, whether through in person, in call, or text, that's with the person and not with the fault of the text itself. Because if someone's not
Right.
equipped,
No, yeah, I got that.
then
Yeah, I got
Pablo,
that.
you
Then-
go.
And then I said
Yeah.
that I agree with Soda because ultimately, if you really want to say something, then saying it in any way, like texting it or actually saying it, is better than not saying it at all. Because even
Oh, okay. I got it.
And then we went into Doritos Locos
think-
Tacos, and then
yeah. So no, what I was gonna say is this is gonna lead to my next topic is that like, yeah, right. Is or at least my next point into this conversation is that now I lost it again.
Oh my
no,
gosh.
you're lying.
No, I got it. No, I got it. It's okay. So, it's these connections that we have with people, right?
Right.
yeah,
It's which is important, right? I think it's important to have a bond with somebody in any way, shape, or form, right? Whether it be phone, text, or all that kind of stuff. But I feel like having technology as like phones
yeah,
hinders our relationship with people, right? Because again, it's like we can say what we want to say through these texts, right? And we could that's just be it, right? And then it'll be on them to like respond, right? But it's like when you're in that person or in that shared space, they have to respond, right? Because it's like you just poured out a whole bunch of like of your feelings, and then you just wait, right? You just wait with the text, and I think it's important to have to build the relationships with people is to confront those feelings face to face or through call, like in real time, right? Because it teaches us that like we had like like it's not only my feelings that counts, but it's also the person that I'm talking to, or or the people that like I'm interacting with, right? Because we both know how we feel at the same time, and we can get through it together. And even though I feel like that's why it's so easier to text people, because we can control how we feel and when we feel and when we send these things, and we could just avoid those kind of interactions altogether, right? And it becomes about me. It becomes about yourself, right? Like, oh, I sent that text. I don't have to worry about it anymore, right? They could just deal with it on their own until they send it back. But I think it's important to have those kind of conversations in real life.
But what if they don't?
because,
What if
again,
they don't want to engage you in those conversations? This is the same
well, then-
talk
and
as the
then-
last
and then-
one.
No. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, well, like, why don't they? That's the question. Like, why don't they want to have the conversation? Well, it's because they're scared of having that conversation, right? And so,
well, it doesn't
think-
have to be that they're scared. It could be other things too. It could be like something else is
Well,
on
yeah,
their
but-
mind, or like they don't feel like having that conversation at the moment.
well, then I feel like you get more out of it. That's what I'm saying. You get more. It's more beneficial.
How?
Because you understand. Because there's a connection in real time, right? Take for example, with the dog or the robot, right? When you have a conversation with the robot, that robot is programmed to respond back, right?
Yeah.
And so, even though there's conversation, right? Even though there's like, there's like, there's emotions and all that kind of stuff, the robot is programmed to respond back, choose. They don't wait and feel like, oh, I should say this, oh, I should say that, right? They just respond back, and I feel like that's the same way through how we use technology, how we're using our phones, right? We are essentially we're just like using it for our own benefit and for our own self. It just becomes about us, right? And I think it is important to like know about yourself and have self-love, right? And understand yourself. But in order to build a relationship, you need to have a face-to-face conversation, right? You need to be like physically there, right? Because you can see body language, you can see how they feel. And if they don't want to have that conversation, then you wait. You just hold on to the topic until you're both are ready to have that conversation, right? Because with the phone or with technology, it becomes for us to be more comfortable of avoiding confrontation, of avoiding having that real like talk that like and like I think that's it. I mean, I feel like it's helping us to like be more comfortable in a way where we can say things that we want to say, but I think it's more beneficial to be in person, right? Because like I said a bajillion times, it's like there's that real person and you can see them saying the things that they're saying instead of looking it through a screen.
Yeah.
Well,
right? Because it's important to have that conversation in real time, because it's
Well then
I think it's just beneficial as human beings.
Well then that's
that's
like when you get like, so say you're texting with someone. That's like when you're like, hey, you want to hang out, and that's when you want to talk to them. You want to talk to them on your own terms.
Stuff like that. Yeah,
All I'm saying
stuff
is,
like that
like,
I get.
You want it on your own terms either way. And if you can't have it on your own terms, then you text it to them. And what's wrong with that? Like, there's really nothing wrong with it.
For me,
if you want it on your if you want it on your own, sorry, you go. You go.
I disagree with what you said about the robot dog, because in that scenario, that robot dog, you're talking to a robot and not a person. The person behind the screen is the person you're trying to communicate with. Even if it's in person, yes, that is the most meaningful way. But some people are never ready to have serious conversation. It could be years. And it has nothing to do with technology, call, or text. It has something to do with their character. Like how we said at the beginning, where if it's affecting your real life, that's when it becomes an addiction. And when someone doesn't want to have that conversation, then you're just harboring feelings without any release. And when the person, like, some people need therapy to even like engage a conversation that you're trying to have. So like to say that it's equivalent to talking to a robot dog because it's not loving, it's not understanding, I think that's I disagree with that, because you're not trying to talk to something that's not real. You are talking to someone who's real. And if they're not ready to engage, then they might never will be, even in person.
Yeah. Also, to go along,
that's why I feel like technology hinders that, because
if you're holding it
not
inside,
ready,
then you're
all right,
never going to get released.
Time out.
Well, it's like
Let me say a point real quick.
No, I can't.
Let me say a point real quick.
Bet.
No, it's just about religion. It's about religion, and it's a personal thing. I don't think I can.
No, I meant Pablo.
Oh, my bad.
Oh my gosh. What I'm trying to say is, like, even if they were ready, even if they are ready, and you do end up having that conversation face to face, and you get the answer that you don't want to hear, you're gonna get the same answer either way, because they're not gonna feel different through text than in person. They'll feel the same way about you because they're how to explain it? Because they're feeling the same thing in person and through text. They're not gonna feel something. texting someone something and telling someone something won't change the way they feel, because they'll feel a certain way, and it'll either be in person or through text that they'll tell you how they feel. And if it's an answer you don't want to hear, then it's still gonna be an answer you don't want to hear in person.
Hypothetically, you're in a room full of people, right? Or no, you're in a room with that person, right? Would you want to communicate those feelings through text or through with your voice?
Your voice. What? You're in the same room as them.
Yeah, there's.
But again, like you said, you still get the same.
But what if they
feeling
walk
you go
out?
through
What if
text,
you try to
right?
talk to them and they walk out? Then what do you do? And then what if you say?
Then they're not ready.
But what if they're never ready?
Then they're not
what
ready.
if they're
then
never
they're not
ready
to have that conversation?
Well, what are you gonna do with yourself if they're never ready to talk to you?
I think it's more beneficial to have that face to face.
But if you don't,
we're
then
not
what do you
saying
do?
you're wrong. We're not saying you're wrong.
What? I know, but I'm just saying that.
Okay, hypothetically,
what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, Scuba Steve. Okay, look, in this hypothetical situation, you try to talk to them, they say they're not ready, and then they're never ready. What do you do?
I'm dying.
Well, then you wait until they're
ready. What if they're never ready?
Or you tell them then you tell them how you feel, right?
You tell them if they're not willing to engage with you.
I'm dying, bro. We're both
If they're not,
agreeing with
if
each
they're not
other.
going to answer your phone, if they're not going to meet you in person, how do you tell them?
I think.
I'm dying, bro. I'm freaking dying. I'm sweating so bad. I laughed so hard.
I think.
Oh my gosh.
I think what is missing here is
we both see each. Wait, time out. Let me say something. We're both seeing each other's point of views. All right.
But what are you saying is more beneficial? What is more beneficial?
We're saying that in person is obviously more beneficial. We both said that already. That in person is more beneficial. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying this whole time. Is that saying things in person is more beneficial.
It's beneficial to say it, whatever it's in person or through text. As long as you're saying what you feel, that's better. No matter what medium. I'm not saying text is lower than call because you're still expressing what you're saying. Because sometimes people won't listen to your voice and they won't read your text, but at least you have it out there.
Yes. All we're saying is that if you cannot get it out in person, get it out through text. That's what we've been saying.
Person first.
I get it. No, I get it. I totally get it. I'm just saying that, like, because of that, right? It's like it becomes about me.
How?
Right?
No, it's not about you. It's about both of you.
Because you said that. Because it said. I'm getting really mad.
I know, that's why I was laughing.
I don't want to get mad. But what I'm saying is it becomes about me, right? And so you want your release from yourself, from like, with all that stuff, right? You have baggage on, right?
What the hell are you trying to communicate then?
This is a conversation between two people,
and if they're not
right? And so you want to understand how you want to understand.
Then it doesn't matter.
I'm dying.
I think that people should have those kind of conversations.
Yes.
Right? Should be able to open up.
Yeah.
And if you are afraid to be open up, then that's something that you should work on, right?
Yes.
Because if I say some, but it's just like, I feel like when you're in person, there's like there's something different about it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right there, right in front of them, and you see how they feel, and you see that they're feeling some type of way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, would you rather have therapy through phone, through text, or through in person?
Of course in person, but if the therapist isn't going to meet with you, then what are you going to do?
Yes.
Then you go to therapy, and then you don't...
What the fuck? You find another... What I'm saying is, it just becomes more beneficial when you're in person.
You're so hard-headed, actually. Sorry, I mean, Scuba Steve.
No, I'm dead ass serious. I mean, it's just like.
No, we understand what you're saying.
It's
more beneficial
we understand.
in person.
No, because there's a loss of humanity.
How?
If it's just like, because you think about yourself if they're not ready, then you should tell them like go find a therapist or go.
You're
like,
gonna tell them to
figure
go
it
find a
out.
therapist? When have
Right?
you ever said that to someone and that worked out? You should go find a therapist, then you can talk to me. If you said to
Are
someone
you
you should
saying
go
that-
talk to a
are you
therapist to
saying
talk to
that-
me, then you're making it about yourself. That is not how you handle things, my guy.
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't-
man. Oh my gosh. Alright. Oh man. All we're saying is it's between you two either way. Yes? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
It's between
just
you
talk,
two
it's
either
okay.
way. And if you want to say what you want to say in that time, you should say what you want to say in that time. No matter what, even if it's like... Because you don't know when you'll ever feel that way again. And you may not ever feel that way again. So, if you feel like you have to say it, then you should say it. And it's not, and it doesn't have anything to do with being self-centered. Because you want to deal with it with your friend. That's why you're saying it to them. It's intimate either way. But to your point, it is more intimate in person because you have the human factor to it.
Yeah.
But if they don't want to talk to you in person, and you can't find the scenario where you can talk to that person, where you can have your ground and your scenario where you can talk to that person, then talk to them on your terms. Like, if you're because you're not gonna say what you want to say if it's not on your terms in the first place, because you don't feel comfortable saying it. Especially if it's something intimate and it has to be kept between you two and you're like in public or something. You're not gonna say it in public because there are people around and you don't want the other people dealing with your problems between the two of you. So, what I'm trying to get at is, like, either way, it's between you two and it's not self-centered because you are trying to go through something with your friend either way, and you are trying to grow with each other either way. But in order to find that ground, to find that situation where you want to say it, if you can't find it in person, then just say it through text, because you don't know when you'll ever feel that way again. You don't know if you will ever feel that way again, and you feel like it's something important that you guys should both go through, then you should talk about it when you feel it. That's all me and Soda have been trying to say.
I will say this. In a lot of aspects, technology does hamper a lot of... People do hide behind screens. Yes. But in forms of communication, sometimes things are just not in your alley. And even though you want to do it a certain way, sometimes you can't. And that's what
Yes.
technology offers you, different avenues. If one avenue closes in real life, then you're done. If you got locked up, let's say there was a pandemic and you couldn't go outside. If there wasn't technology,
Great
I wouldn't
example,
be able to
great
talk to my
example.
friends. I wouldn't be able to engage
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do while we're in this pandemic? How are we supposed to talk to each other if we can't talk to each other in person?
But if I were to use my phone and my gaming consoles and my computer to avoid responsibilities and jobs and relationships, then that's a hamper. But when I'm using the technology to go through different avenues to communicate with people, then I don't see a problem with that. That's just my case. I don't see anything wrong with texting, calling. Preferably, meeting people in person is the way to go. But technology offers different avenues.
Yeah, and if it's important, then it's important, and it has to be talked about at that time, because you don't know if it'll ever come up again. And saying that you can only talk to people in person is kind of crazy, because then, like, again, how Soda was saying, we wouldn't be able to talk to each other right now because we're in a pandemic.
No.
What do you
what up?
think? What do you think? Leave us a call or text in the.
Wait,
Oh my
let
gosh.
me say.
I'm so heated right now, bro. I'm sweating so bad. Oh my gosh. Oh
There was
my
a pause.
gosh.
Sorry.
Look. I understand it all, right? I think at the end of the day, it's important to have conversation with someone, right? Through any forms of media or some shit, right? With texting, it becomes more convenient because, again, it's like, you know, I can send you a text and you can send me a text and we could be in totally different areas, right? I mean, like with long distance relationships, that's like the only way we can communicate, right? Is through like these texts from long distance or, you know, from, you know, these different, right? It becomes easier for us to talk with each other as we are right now, right? Because like we can't be outside, we can't go out and interact with each other, so we use that to our benefit because, you know, we do it to socialize with each other, to like, you know, just talk, right?
Yeah.
But and it's just, there's so many benefits with, you know, through text or through call, right? It's just like, I don't know, it's just when I was reading this and looking through these discussions, it just seems like when people text, when people text, it's kind of like they're in control, right? They can say things that they want to say in that time, right? And, you know, like when I'm talking now, what I say is what I say, and I can't change it unless like I think about it and I, you know, and stuff like that, right? But what I've said is already what I've said. With the text, I can type down what I'm saying now, but then I can erase it and say something different, right? So there's a bit of control in that conversation, right? So there's no mistake. There's like, there's nothing. You can always say the right thing, right? I don't know. It's just like there's. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just different when. I mean, we can all agree it is beneficial when you have it face to face, right? But what I'm saying with through text, it's like you can say something, and then you can wait a bajillion years until they respond, right? But when you're in face to face, it's like. I mean, at that point when you're sitting together, you're ready to have that conversation, right? Because you like, you tell them like maybe through text like, hey, I'm ready to talk, and then you get into, you know, in the same room and you talk because you're ready to have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when you're in that situation, you, even if it's hard, you want to get out all the emotions, right?
Yeah.
But with text, it's like you send something, you say how you feel, right? But then you have to wait until they respond to that, right? And in a perfect world, you wanted to have it instantaneously, right? You wanted to have it right away.
But the point is, like,
I feel like when you have, well,
Okay,
stop, hold on, dude,
keep
hold on.
going.
I feel like when you have that conversation, when you have deep conversations, you feel like you're ready at that moment, right? You don't want to go into some serious and feel uncomfortable, right? And so you just wait. You just wait until you do, right? And so it's like I can send a text, and then when I'm ready to have that conversation, but is that person ready to have that conversation? Because then I have to wait. Then I have to wait until they send that text, right? But when you're in person, you're both are ready because you both agreed to have that conversation in person.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess in some sense, it's like I totally agree that we're able to conversate with each other easily and it's more convenient. And I dropped my bottle, right? Of my fucking Powerade. I think it's more convenient in that sense. But there's a sense of it becomes more beneficial when you're building a relationship with someone, when you have it in person because you're both ready, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but again, I just want to say, like, if you can't have it in person, then you should text it. Like,
well, why can't you just call him?
Here's the thing. If Pablo, did I interrupt you? I didn't mean
no,
to.
go for it.
Okay. Well, see, I'm not talking about just sending like what you're feeling like out of nowhere, like guns blazing, like your turn. I'm saying that some people behind the phone, they're not going to be ready ever. I have people in my life that I love, and but like whenever I try to talk to them, even in person, even if like it's not out of nowhere, if I try to talk to them about something important, some people will say that they're not ready, like you said, but then they never come back to it. And then what? Is it for me? Like, why are you harboring stuff inside of you if they're never going to give you the time of day? And I understand that it's a lot better in person. And if they can engage you in person, that's 10 times better than texting. But I don't think it's healthy to leave it inside of you if they're never going to give you the time of day. If they're not going to answer your text, they're not going to answer your call. And if they're not going to answer your call, they're not going to meet with you in person.
Well, yeah, if you send a text, well, I think in both ways, wouldn't it just be better just to move on yourself?
No.
Right? I mean, like, even if they're not ready. Well, the thing is, they're not going to send that text back.
Well, they're not.
Right? So they're not going to answer you back.
But why wouldn't you say it?
Right? So
why wouldn't you say your piece?
Well, the thing is, it's like you won't get total peace unless they respond to you back, right? Unless you know how they feel.
No, see,
I feel like that's important. I feel like that's important to have in a relationship, is not only understand how you feel, but how they feel about you.
But
there's a sense of like,
it's not like
there's a sense
okay,
of
you go ahead.
There's a sense of like, well, like at least I know how they feel, whether it's negative or not, right? At least they responded to me, right? I said like, hey, this is how I felt, and so now you have to wait until they respond, and whether it be good or bad, at least you know how they respond, right? And so I feel like through the text, you have to wait. You're yearning for that response. There is a sense of release because you're like, well, yeah, I said what I said. Now I feel a little bit better, but it becomes more beneficial when you understand how they feel.
Yeah, but
right. And so in the sense, if they're not ready, even through text, well then again, it's like, wouldn't you just move on at that point, right? I mean, you still have that same feeling because you don't have that response from them. You don't know how they feel, right? I think that's an important in the relationship, is also understand how the other person feels. And I feel like through text, it's like a little bit, it's more difficult because you have to wait for that response of how they feel.
I disagree. Because you're not waiting on them. You're not waiting on their breath if they're not going to engage you. For me, like, you're going to move on, but say your piece. Because if you harbor that inside, that's 10 times more damaging than you like, oh, well, fuck it, go into something else. That's way more damaging than saying your piece. If you say their piece and then someday they do respond to you, then you could re-engage them in person. But you don't have to linger on that. But you don't have to harbor it too. That's my thing. You got to let it go. And if you're not going to say your piece, you're not letting it go.
all I gotta say is like,
I get it.
If
I
you lead with the freaking text of something that you've been wanting to say forever, that's not a good way to lead texting, bro.
Yeah.
You should get into a rhythm first and then be like, hey, I've been thinking this, rather than texting it right off the bat. Cause then you know if they're at their phone at the moment, and then so when you text them, at least you'll know that they seen it, and that they're thinking about it, and that they'll probably most likely text you back because you texted it at a time where they were at their phone.
Most likely, but I highly doubt it. There's a lot of people that don't text back. Trust me, I know.
I do too, but like at the same time.
I don't know. I guess in my opinion, I mean, I totally get what you guys are saying, and I like...
Having that sense of relief is better than not having, than bottling it up.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think it's important to have... I don't know. There's just something about like real life conversation and having the real time conversation that's more... I feel like it's beneficial in building relationships. with people,
But
in my opinion. I totally get what you're saying, though. I understand everything that you guys are saying, but I guess in my opinion, it just becomes more beneficial for both parties.
also, what I want to say is, like, you were talking about telling them in person, finding a time to tell them in person. Like, what if you're like, you text them that, hey, I've been thinking about this and we should meet up and talk about this. Then you're forcing them to go out of their way.
Well,
so
yeah,
wait,
that's
but time out. Let me finish.
That's just telling them. My apologies. My apologies.
You were saying that texting it to them is self-centered because you're thinking about you in that moment in time. If you're texting them to go out of their way to meet you in person to talk about the problem that you had, isn't that not the same thing as texting them at that moment?
No. What becomes self-centered is the it's not that.
Sure it's not that?
No. You guys are what I said when it becomes self-centered is when it's like when you come to your own conclusions. When I said back, when you come to your own conclusions, when you have control of what to say and how you say it and all that kind of stuff, right? Because it's like you essentially are like, at least this is from when I read it, and it's just like, and I guess I agree since I'm saying this, but it's just like, it's not when you say hey, let's meet up. That's not being self-centered, right? That's just saying hey, let's meet up in real person and have that conversation. Those kind of things shouldn't be self-centered. When we texting and all that kind of stuff through this kind of stuff, what I'm saying is that like what texting has is having control of what you say, right? Because you can say everything right. You can retype and like type things, and you can have control of what you say, right? And then if one person doesn't respond, then you move on to the next person, right? And so it's just like, because you want to have that conversation now, and if someone doesn't want it, you move on to the next person.
Obviously, it depends on what.
You keep moving on to the next person, right? And so that's when I feel like it becomes self-centered, because you want to have
because you're changing the person you're having the conversation with,
right? And if they don't give you attention, then you move on until someone does give you attention.
But didn't you
right?
say just move on to the next person if they don't ever feel ready to talk to you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No. Here's the problem. No, what I'm saying is you feel some and you want someone to respond to you, right? But if they don't respond to you, you move on to someone else.
Okay, but
right?
All right, wait. Before you continue. So yeah, what you've been arguing are two different problems. One of the problems is between you and the person, and one of the problems is between yourself. Is just yourself. And if it's between you and the person, then it's fine to seek out that person because you want to have it between you and that person. But if it's just something you want to get out yourself to whoever, then how is that self-centered? Because you're seeking attention isn't really self-centered if you want to have that conversation with anyone. How is that self-centered? Because it doesn't really matter if it's your own problem and it's not directed toward anyone, then like it's like, as if it's not directed toward anyone, how is it a bad thing to talk about it to anyone?
To jump on that, I don't think it's self-centered, only because the way I see doing that, leaving a text if no other avenue is available, you're still trying to mend what you have. You're not abandoning them, they're abandoning you. And if that's the case, then it's not being self-centered, because you want to work it out. You're willing to say, hey, here's me, and here's what I think we should work on. I don't think there's anything, because there's effort. on you.
Well, so think about the other party, right? I mean, they look at the text and they choose not to respond. Because they don't want to, right? They don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But
well, why is that?
Sometimes people don't want to talk because it has nothing to do with you. I've had people who I've gone to for guidance, but because it resembled something that they went through in the past as a kid, they didn't want to talk about it. Some people have a hard time with saying goodbye because of something that happened in their childhood. That has nothing to do with me, but because they never had release, they're carrying it with them. And if someone doesn't talk to you, if someone isn't willing to engage you when you're trying to engage them and saying, "Hey, we can make this work still, but we just got to work on these." I don't feel like that's on you because you're going out of your way. Even if it was in person, you're making the effort to meet in person to talk to them. And it's like you said, it's more beneficial if you can do it that way. But if you can't,
that's what I'm just trying to get, is that it's more beneficial to meet in person. That's all I'm just trying to get.
Yeah, but the way you explained it was you're combining two separate problems.
Well, I mean, the thing is, so there's two hypotheticals, I guess, right? There's like having that conversation with someone, but there's also like say you had a bad day, at least with the problem with yourself. Say you had a bad day, right? And you talk to someone and they don't respond to you.
Yeah.
Right? And so like you just want someone to respond to you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all you want. And so if no one responds to you, then you just move on to the next person.
But
and you just move on to the next person until someone responds to you.
Yeah, but how is that self-centered if it's your own problem and you want someone to help you?
Because you're not waiting for the other person. Well, I feel like at that point, right?
Well,
because it's like you want to have that conversation with that specific person, but because it's like, they are responding to me instantaneously, then I move on to the next person, right?
But
I think I found where I disagree with you. In that scenario, you're expecting an immediate reply in text. Whenever I text people, I do not expect, because it's a text. We're not calling each other. I don't expect an immediate response. I was arguing more so the fact that, I mean, it's if you feel that text is inferior, it's inferior. That's how you feel. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm just saying I think there's an argument to be made for texting. And for me, I don't see it as, I want an instantaneous text. I text you to let you know about a situation. Get back to me when you get back to me. And that's how I respond back to people as well. If someone sends me a text, I'll read it. I probably won't respond right then and there, but I'll get back to them. And usually what happens if someone texts me, I won't address it until I call them. And that's where I agree with you. Call person 10 times more important. But I don't think texting is inferior. But if someone's expecting an immediate text, like after texting someone and they're like, why didn't this person text me back? Then that's different. Because if you're sending, wait, what the fuck? If you're expecting an instant text, you're the selfish one. But it depends on how you're texting them. Because if someone answers your call and then they don't speak, then it's like something else. But if you text them and then you're like, why didn't this person answer me back? That's selfish. That's being selfish. It's expecting them to tune into your schedule. Yeah, that I can agree on.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been trying to say. Is that like you expect them to respond to you?
That's what I'm saying. That's where I found the disagreement because I don't expect that. So that's
what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I feel like that's what. That's the thing. I just feel like that's what text kind of teaches, is that like you want that or at least technology, right? You want that instantaneously response, right?
Well, it depends on the scenario as well, because the way you're saying it is like you lead with that. If you're leading with that and they don't answer you, obviously it's because they're doing something. But if you're like texting them back and forth, and then you then after that you text them, and they don't answer to that, then that's kind of on them because they don't.
What about text teaches people that? What part of texting teaches people that they need to instant response? I think calling, having the false idea that texting is the same as calling, See, and that's something I can agree with you on. If someone chooses text instead of calling or meeting someone, if they're only going for texts, then I can understand where you're coming from. But I don't think it teaches people that they need an instant response, because there isn't anything in the design of text that says, "Hey, you're gonna get an instant response."
I just think it's frustrating when I feel something at a certain time and I don't get a response until like later in the day, right? I'll feel something, like I feel frustrated, right? Because I barely text anybody, right? I like text one or two people, right? And so I barely understand, or I feel like mad, like I'm frustrated at something, and I'll send a text, right? And then I don't receive like anything until later that night, where I'm already over it, right? I just have to deal it with myself, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm, I don't know. It's just like, I think it's important to have, I don't know.
Well, here's
my point.
I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying, if let's say you try to call that person, because we can agree that in person's better, and if you can't meet in person, a call in real time voice is better. Even if you called to just have your day cheered up, they wouldn't have picked up.
Yeah.
So it's the same realm. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to in person, that's better, that's superior. But if it's on the technical realm, I feel like it should be all on the same spectrum. Because if someone can't answer a call, they're definitely not going to text you back. Not right then and there.
That's so disheartening, dude. If you think about it, it is. No, it is, because it's like it's made so easier to connect with each other, but it's just so hard when you can't, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why I feel like it's scary. That's why it's hard to like be like, I feel like it's like it's easier to talk with each other and all that kind of stuff. But it just makes us sadder, because it's like, well, we can't, like, they don't answer a call or a text, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All I want to say is, like, honestly, if you don't set it up right, they're obviously not going to text you back. Or the probability of them texting you back is very low. But if you really wanted to talk to some specific person about a problem that you're having that's not specific to you and them, then you should set it up correctly and then ask if you can talk about that to them. To know that they're in the right head, to know that if they are in the right headspace to talk about that with you. 'Cause then if you don't like set it up, and if they're not in the right headspace to talk about it with you, then obviously you're not gonna get the best reply. So
I don't know. I guess what I'm just trying to say is like, or it's just what I'm thinking through this whole conversation. It's like, it's easier in text, but why can't we do it in person? Right, because in both spectrums we feel the same way, whether we're ready or not. It's like, why can't we do it in person?
Well,
I guess that's my whole thing. And like, I understand you guys' arguments, and like I just like I totally get it. It's just my whole's wrapped around like, why can't it just happen in person?
A lot of the reason why it doesn't happen in person is because, again, like I was saying earlier, you can't find the situation in which you feel comfortable saying it in person. Like, a lot of people don't like talking about stuff, like personal stuff, in public scenarios, and you can't.
Well, yeah, I know, but like, I'm not. If I'm feeling some type of way, I'm not gonna say it during like
exactly. That's exactly my point. You're not gonna say it in a public scenario. So if you can't
so you
find
bring
it,
them into a private so you bring them into a private scenario.
That's what
I will say this.
Hold on, let me continue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I will say this.
I'm saying also. I totally agree.
Let
with
me
that.
continue.
I will say this. I will say this.
I haven't got to finish yet, man. Fuck.
Yes. I don't know why we can't have it in person. There's been
I
many
was trying to
times
explain, man.
where I've tried to talk to people in private, and I've waited for people to talk to me in private, and in both scenarios it just wasn't the case. I have friends who I'm still friends with today, but because of how we handled the last big important topic that we had to discuss, I know
like this
well,
one.
no, see, here's the difference. This conversation went from chill to us just saying things to a giant argument to like a
Exactly.
half argument, half chill type of vibe. But the fact that we're discussing it with each other is saying a lot. With my other friends, I can't turn to them. I can't trust them because I know I'm just gonna be left alone. I'm just that's the tragic part. It, like you said, it's disheartening. Some people aren't equipped to deal with that in person. The same way as, sometimes you find it hard to talk to your parents about something. Sometimes you have a friend group that has a certain vibe and you don't want to ruin it. Sometimes people just don't have the strength to keep a brave face. That's what I find, is that they can't maintain their image and they just don't want to talk about it, or else their image is ruined. And
I think
go ahead.
I think what we need to do is we need to talk to like people that were born in like the freaking 70s, 80s.
Before
Like,
like
how
the
do you
fucking
deal with your
technology.
problems before? Did you?
I
Because
drink.
To me
just
personally,
talk-
I
probably
feel
just-
like most of the
Yeah.
time they didn't even
They probably
talk
just
to
beat
people.
each other. They probably like fought.
Most of the time, what I think is from my parents, I just don't think they talked about stuff like that. Like talking about like their own problems. I don't think they talked about like stuff like that to their friends unless they were like in a situation they could. But then again, it goes back to like, why can't we say it in person? Because we can't find that scenario where we can say it in person, that we feel comfortable saying it in person. And so to Soda's point, you texting it is saying it on your grounds, and if you call them, then it might not be on their grounds. So texting it to them is finding a common ground to talk about what you want to talk about. And in person is so hard to find that, because you can't. It's really hard to find a situation where you're out and about with your friends and you can finally get that moment where you can talk to them. It's really hard to find that moment. And then by that time you get to that moment, what if you just forget that problem? You just it just leaves your mind. You don't even remember having that problem in the moment because you're feeling different in that moment. So again, it's the reason why we don't have these conversations in person is because we can't find the situation. And to the point where I was like, how did people go about this before technology? I just don't think they did.
Do you think they can't find the situations because they want to avoid confrontation?
No, I just think that in public you're in public and it's really hard to find it.
Well, the thing is, it's like we're assuming that everything that we're like having, you want to have face to face, is in private, right? And so
Usually, yeah.
And so when they aren't, it's like when you want to have it in private, you're both ready, right? I guess at that point.
Yeah.
Like, why would you? And like, if you're with your group of friends, it's like,
is-
of course you're not ready because your friends are
That
there.
is a bad time
right?
to do what you need to do.
So we can all agree that it's best if you do it in private,
Yes.
right? And so in order to communicate with that, you either do like, I guess, with text, with phone call, or like you could just say it in the group setting, or like before, like after everything is died down, when everyone like is like chilled, you could just be like, hey, can we talk for a bit, right? And so, but it's just like, I guess it's like, why would you ask the person you want to talk to during a party, during like a group, like I don't think anybody would be ready in that point. And if I said that in my arguments that we are, I don't think I meant it that way, right? I think we all can agree that it's in private,
Yes.
right? And so, yeah.
I do agree with you when
And
you
so-
said
but-
it's confrontation. Confrontation,
yeah, because like I feel, because that's what I was saying with the phone. It's like you avoid the confrontation, right? No one wants to feel that kind of emotion, but I feel like it's important to feel those feelings together.
Yes.
Right? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I'm not saying to have that argument. I'm not saying to have that argument with your friends, right? I'm saying it's important to share those emotions together in real time.
Yeah.
Right? And I think with phones, it helps. That's what I mean. It helps us, or at least it teaches us to avoid that emotion, confrontation, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree with you that confrontation has a big part of it. I disagree on having the phones being a thing that helps us stay away from confrontation, because it's all confrontation. That's my point, really, is that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be easier to like. I mean, I think it's one thing when you say, "Hey, let's meet up to have this conversation," and having that conversation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I think at this point, we're just going in circles.
Yeah.
We're just going in circles. So
I think we all can agree that
Let's
we
just-
all love each other, respect each other's views,
Yeah,
and that in
yeah,
person
yeah.
is cool, you know? Yeah.
yeah, I think it's harder to have that in person. I think it is, and I think I totally agree that it's like.
Oh yeah, it's definitely harder
Like
in
saying it
person.
through text, yeah.
That I can agree
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Definitely harder in person.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, even though I got really mad, I think it's just really interesting to see that there are ways that technology can benefit us in 100,000 ways. But there's also ways that technology, can't. And it kind of worsens our abilities. But I don't know.
Damn.
It's just
I just want to say, before we came into this conversation, I did not expect this is where it was going.
Yeah, I was trying to find a segue to talk about
He
robots.
said it was gonna be about robot dogs and not robot dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's why.
Before
That's
this
why I talked about the
conversation-
robot dogs earlier. But then I just like I can't talk about robot dogs right now.
circled
I gotta
back.
talk about what we're talking about.
You said I have a new
Bro,
topic.
yeah.
And then you circled back.
Before we started this, he said we're gonna talk about robots and humans, and this guy just talked about emotions and talking to people.
Well,
the
I
whole
will say
time.
my final thought is, I'm glad how this turned out, because it showed that even though you can get frustrated and angry with someone, you can still communicate and work it out.
Yeah, right. I think that's
Alright,
important.
and-
We didn't have an argument. We had a
We had a
conversation. 'cause,
conversation. There we go.
Like even yeah, because I mean I said what I said. Y'all said what you said, and I totally get it. I mean I don't see you differently, but I just like at least I understand what you guys feel about this topic,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what we've been learning in this class is like how technology is used, how it's affecting us, and there's so many different stages, right? From our phones to our computers to even like robots, right? And so I guess that whole robot thing is a different conversation. I was hoping to have all of that all in this one podcast, but
Here we were thinking we wouldn't have
guess
enough
not.
content, enough things to speak about.
All right,
all this-
for
all
the
this-
viewers,
all this
for
made me
the 30 people, I think is our average that view this. For the 30 viewers average that we have, for what I want you guys to take away from this is that if you can find a time, a situation to have a conversation that you want to have with someone in person, then by all means go for it, because that will make you better as a person and help you find that person that you want to find in life when that day that you want to grow with. And that's because that's one thing that I struggle with is having these finding situations to have these conversations in person. And having them over text is obviously not the same as having them in person, but I know it's really hard to find them to have these conversations in person because you can't find the situation. So what I want to leave you guys with is just while you're going through life, just try to find those situations, find those situations and go after the situations, whenever you can talk to someone, and that's all I want to say.
Text your mom that you love her, call her, or better yet, just say it in person.
Yeah, that's
or call her, because if your mom don't pick up the phone when you call her, then your mom don't love you. No, I'm kidding.
Got him. Oh man, worse. I mean, if anything, it's my mom that texts me first and calls me first.
Yeah, I have a joke.
I'm just kidding.
My parents sent me.
No, I said I guess, and then I said just kidding on the guess because I do actually love my mom.
I thought you said I love my mom. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
My mom's gonna hate me for that one.
You could just say I love my mom without saying it.
Sorry, all this anger and this like heated argument got me hungry and my
heated
conversation.
Heated conversation.
Me and Scuba Steve are about to go grocery shopping. All right, guys.
Yeah, much needed. Much needed. I have no food.
All right.
In my body and in my fridge. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Tune in next week where we talk about the ranch.
Comment down below how you feel about technology and how it's affecting your life.
Specifically phones. I guess because we talked about just phones in this conversation.
Pretty much.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, but next time we'll talk about ranch. Anyways, go have a bowl of Cheerios.
Peace.